Hi there, everybody. This is Lee, and I'm talking about election fraud. I've created videos in the past regarding that issue, discussing it from several different angles. Most recently, I talked about the fact that there are 500 election observers who will be monitoring our elections coming from foreign countries. They've looked at our overall electoral process. They've sent monitors in the past. We had 44 in 2012. In 2016, we will have 500. The reason being that so many things have changed since 2012. One was the sunset of the pre-clearance section of the Voting Rights Act, which precipitated a lot of poll closings in certain locations, and then also a lot of interesting takes on voter law in certain states of the United States. That, along with the large number of disenfranchised people in our population that have gone through the criminal justice system and have had their voting rights lost, which is actually a civil right. Some permanently lost their voting rights. That was also another red flag. And the fact that there doesn't seem to be an equal number of women holding office was another red flag. A lot of inflammatory language towards women and minorities in the public discourse was another red flag. And then also the media access was another red flag. The fact that the FCC deregulated a lot of regulations regarding equal access to media during political campaigns, such as interviews, things like that, and a lot of inequality in terms of media access as a result. There was also the Democratic primary, which was the straw that broke the camel's back. Our election system has become a laughing stock and just a shame before the world. Have become, we have an election system that is very shameful. And it's still ongoing as we proceed to the November 8th election. There's been no improvements, there's been no redemption, there's been no accountability or any sense of responsibility. It's just getting worse and worse as we get closer to our November election. So now we have 500 observers coming along the way. That's one aspect. And then you also have the aspect of what's been investigated internally within the United States, what organizations have found. And I've spoken on that specifically with Election Justice USA, who examined the Democratic primary and the exit polling, the use of superdelegates, the media access, the voter registration, the purging of voters, voter suppression, closing of polling places from start to finish. And I'll have those links in the description where people can follow up on that themselves. There's one other aspect that I want to speak on today, and that's the um, lawsuit filed against the Democratic National Committee and Debbie Wasserman Schultz by Bernie Sanders donors. The main website lists a lot of information about this lawsuit and the actions that are taken. The lawsuit has been filed by Beck and Lee, and it's regarding the DNC, collusion, fraud, corruption, as revealed by Guccifer 2.0, things like that. And I'll have a website to the attorneys. I'll have a link to the attorney's website. There's a lot of first person or first document information here. Basically, the lawyers of Beck and Lee, who also run Jam Pack with another law firm, they're investigating the class action law claims by donors based on fraudulent conduct by the Democratic National Committee. And so they're saying that on June 15th, 2016, an anonymous hacker named Guccifer 2.0 released documents claiming that those were hacked from the servers of the DNC, the governing body of the Democratic Party, and the party that's responsible for overseeing the 2016 presidential primary race. So the documents strongly suggest that the DNC colluded with Secretary Hillary Clinton's campaign to perpetrate a fraud on the public. And so the lawsuit is against the DNC and any liable affiliated persons and entities. They're saying that if you have donated to the DNC in the past year, membership dues through their website, democrats.org, please feel free to contact them for more information. And so they're following up, and they're saying that you must email them, and that if you want additional information, you can go to Facebook and get real-time information plus input from other class action plaintiffs. And the comment section at this website that I am going to post a link to in the description is very informative too. It kind of there's about 129 comments as of now, where people are expressing their thoughts and feelings and some minor details of their inclusion within this case. If you read through, you can kind of judge whether you should belong to as well. They're saying that people who not only donated to the DNC through democrats.org, but Bernie Sanders directly through Act Blue. And then there's one comment here saying that if you donate to Martin O'Malley or any of the other candidates, that you're eligible. But definitely send an email to the law firm, and then that way you can establish direct contact with the law firm to see where and when you fit in. So there's been some updates on this case. Previously, Sean Lucas, the process server, served the subpoena on behalf of the lawyers. The DNC claimed that the subpoena was not served correctly. The process server could not be called to testify because he was found deceased in his bathroom. Now there is additional information. The process was reserved to the DNC, this time to the lawyers. This time the process server survived the service. And so that was the other update I did. And now the DNC has said that they want this lawsuit tossed out because the plaintiffs, and that means the donors to Bernie Sanders, to the DNC, to Act Blue, things like that. The DNC is saying that the plaintiffs knew that the DNC favored Hillary Clinton. And so there's a formal paragraph here. And so they're saying that from the campaign emails to interviews from Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the media, that there has been suspicion that the Democratic Party was actually throwing the election for Hillary Clinton, even though Martin O'Malley, Jim Webb, Lincoln Chafee, and Bernie Sanders were running for president. But the suspicion is not knowledge. Often suspicion is dismissed as conspiracy theory. And so it wasn't considered a fact until the emails regarding the fraud were exposed. and released to the public by Guccifer 2.0. And so after Guccifer made those documents public, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chair of the DNC, stepped down from her position, and then 3 other employees also left or resigned their positions with the Democratic Party, leading one to think that there was validity and veracity to the emails that Guccifer hacked and released. Otherwise, why would they leave their position? It was almost indirect confirmation that what was in the emails was true. And those are also searchable at not at WikiLeaks, but I believe they are at WikiLeaks. I'll check on that, and I'll try to post a link in the description that kind of gives an indication of where to find those emails. I'm a little bit mixed up on that. So basically, that was the response by the DNC that respondents knew that the game was crooked, but they still kept giving money, and so that for that reason, since they had foreknowledge that they were a part of it and that they have no standing to sue. And if you come to Justice League Task Force, there's a lot of first-hand primary documents that show the motions going back and forth, the exhibits, the evidence that's been presented. So that's primary documentation. At another article, it's USA Politics Now, and they're saying that according to this title, the Democratic Party attorneys admit DNC is corrupt, and that they're desperate to get the class action lawsuit against election fraud by the Democratic National Committee thrown out of court. And so it's saying in this article that the DNC attorneys have basically admitted that the Democratic Party is corrupt. What they're trying to prove is that the Bernie Sanders donors knew this all along, knew about this corruption, and therefore cannot sue them for it. And so this is a follow-up to that attempt to get the class action lawsuit thrown out on a technicality, the allegations of an improper service by the process server who was later found deceased. And so according to this article, they're saying that this proves that the DNC knows that the case against them has merit. And so they're attempting to get that lawsuit thrown out before the plaintiff's attorneys have a chance to go into the really dirty, nasty, dirty details in court. Because if we remember, there are many elections involved here. Hillary Clinton's November 8th election may be affected by this lawsuit. And then Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the 23rd District Congress seat in Florida, she's running for that seat. She's the incumbent. She's defending her seat from Stephanie Anderson, and then a Republican challenger. And then now there's this lawsuit hanging over her head. And so they're saying the plaintiffs that the DNC was biased in favor of one candidate, Hillary Clinton, from the beginning and throughout the process. And that's part of the original lawsuit. It's filed in federal court in Florida, alleging fraud and negligence as it relates to the external hacks on the DN server. And so they're saying that the emails posted by both WikiLeaks and Guccifer 2.0 further proves that the Democratic Party was working against Bernie Sanders from the start. And so the unusual motion by the DNC's attorneys has raised the belief among the plaintiffs that their case has merit and that the DNC is running scared. And so the DNC basically kind of goes through and shows that they've researched and examined the individual plaintiffs, and there's more than like 150 of them, but they've picked some out and they've looked at their social media history and discovered that some of the plaintiffs have discussed the potential fraud against the DNC. But again, they didn't really have proof at the point that they were speculating on the fraud. The fraud wasn't really proven until June 15th, when Guccifer released his hacking products to the public. Prior to June 15th, the plaintiffs did not know that there was, for a clear fact, that there was actually fraud and corruption. It was a suspicion. So it wasn't proven until June 15th. And so for the DNC to claim like they knew it all along, it's not true. It was just a suspicion. So that's how we take care of that if I were a lawyer. And I'm not, so I'm not going to advise anyone on that. But if I were, I would contemplate on that for a while. Anyway, it's an interesting situation that's ongoing. It's getting more intense. The DNC is in a precarious position. It's got a flawed candidate at the top of the ticket that they chose to nominate through all these means of trickeration over Bernie Sanders. And so now this flawed candidate is facing the Republican challenger, and actually a Green challenger and a Libertarian challenger. And she's viewed as coming up short, as we can see through the polling, where people are not sold on her. And apparently millennials and then some other traditional Democratic groups that form the base of voter support aren't sold on Hillary Clinton's campaign. Then you have Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who seems to have been the engineer of quite a bit of the election fraud. So you have the beneficiary of the fraud and then the engineer of the fraud, both running in high-profile races to maintain their positions. And now there's this lawsuit case hanging above their heads. And then the presidential nominee also has some criminal investigations ongoing. So the Democratic Party is in a precarious position. There's kind of a method that they use to portray themselves one way to the public as this great party, the all-knowing, the People's Party. And then there's the reality that has drawn 500 foreign observers to watch our electoral process as we head into November. And then there's all these lawsuits. So there's some kind of gaslighting going on where they're trying to continue to delude the public. And then there's also some self-delusion going on too, where people have drunk the Kool-Aid and they're believing everything that they're told by Debbie Wasserman Schultz about the Democratic Party, perhaps. And no one's really buying what they're selling. And how long are they going to make it last? Can they make it last a month and a week? That's the question. And you be the judge. You can follow up on these links. You can follow up on those documents that's available at the links. You kind of discuss amongst yourselves at the trial lawyers Facebook page that was specifically put together for this purpose, and see what you come up with. All I can say is knowledge is power, and the hacking did provide quite a big base of knowledge from which to judge. And so everyone can kind of inform themselves of these events and figure out where they fit in as well. Good luck.